Three men from Tamil Nadu, India, went to Andhra Pradesh in search of work. There they managed to survive by doing small jobs here and there. But one day, out of nowhere, a few policemen came and arrested them. They had no idea why they were being taken away. At the police station, the officers began beating them mercilessly. Even though the men kept asking what crime they had committed, the only response they got was more torture. The policemen beat the soles off their feet until the skin split open. This was brutality at its worst, something beyond imagination. After hearing this story, you might find yourself cursing the police unconsciously. This is the true story behind the film, Visaranai. Today I'll narrate it for you. I promise you won't be able to look away even for a moment. So let's see how police officers can turn an ordinary person's life into a living hell in an instant. These three friends had left their village and come to the city, hoping to earn some money and support their families. But even after a year, they couldn't find proper jobs. They barely managed to survive by doing small tasks. At night, they had nowhere to stay because of their financial struggles. That's why they bribed the night guard at Gandhi Park to let them sleep there. Every morning, they would sneak out before anyone noticed and go about their work. Pandi, one of the friends, woke up early as usual. After taking a bath in the park's restroom, he prepared to leave for work. His friends Murugan and Kumar warned him to be careful, reminding him to secretly give money to the night guard before leaving. Pandi worked as a helper at a local shop. Every morning he went to his boss's house, picked up the shop keys, and opened the store early. One morning, a few men came to his shop to buy cigarettes. Pandi noticed that one of them had a Tamil newspaper. Excited, he asked if they were from Tamil Nadu, telling them he was also from there. Meeting people from his own state so far away made him happy. One of them asked Pandi for an address, but Pandi also noticed that they had pistols tucked into their waists. Terrified, he quickly asked them to leave the shop. Not long after, another man came and asked, "Are you Pandi?" As soon as Pandi said yes, the man grabbed him by the collar and tried to drag him outside. Pandi struggled to free himself, but then from an auto nearby, Murugan shouted, "Pandi, he's a police officer. He's taking us all to the station." It was still early morning, and they had no idea what was happening or why they were being taken to the police station. Once there, they were searched and made to stand in line. Without saying a word, two policemen started beating them with heavy sticks, like they were animals. The three friends screamed for mercy. Kumar couldn't take the pain and tried to run, but a policeman smashed a bucket over his head, knocking him unconscious. Everyone thought Kumar was dead. In that moment, everything turned chaotic. Pandi and Murugan crawled on the floor, holding their friend's body, crying in shock. But the brutal policemen didn't care. They began beating them again, accusing them of pretending. After endless torture, they finally realized Kumar was still alive. The two dragged him to the corner under a staircase. Soon after, the inspector arrived. He had just returned from a religious pilgrimage, with holy offerings in hand. A policeman distributed the prasadam among everyone. As the inspector climbed the stairs, he looked down at Murugan and gave him a smile, even offering him some prasadam. Murugan thought this officer must be a good man. Nervously, he told him, "Sir, we've been beaten for no reason." But instead of helping, the inspector ordered his men to strip their clothes and beat them harder. The three friends were nearly beaten to death before being thrown into the lockup. Inside, they found more prisoners, also Tamilians arrested without cause. Meanwhile, the inspector was on his phone, assuring someone, "Don't worry, sir. I'll solve the robbery case in just a couple of days." In reality, there had been a burglary in town, and since they couldn't catch the real culprits, the police decided to frame Pandi and his friends as scapegoats. In the lockup, Murugan accused Pandi, "You must have done something. That's why the police came after us. This morning you went to the shop so early, saying you had some problem. Tell me honestly, what did you do?" But Pandi swore he was innocent. "I didn't do anything, my friend. The only thing I did was fall for a girl. She used to walk past my shop every day and glance at me. When I rang the bell on my bicycle near her house, she would come out to the balcony just to look at me. She was so beautiful, and she was just a housemaid working in that family. Can you believe it? Even a maid could be that beautiful." One night, the girl came to Pandi's shop to make a phone call to her house, but the line wasn't clear, so Pandi went to fix it. While doing so, his hand accidentally touched hers. The girl got upset and immediately walked out in anger. Murugan then said, "So you must have teased that girl. That's why the police arrested us." But Pandi replied, "No, listen. After closing the shop, I went to apologize to her. When I found her, she was crying. She told me she wanted help finding a new job at another house because the family she was currently working for wouldn't even let her go home. The master of the house also looked at her with bad intentions. So I told her not to worry, that I would help her. I told her that whenever she needed me, she could come to my shop, or if not, she could always find us at Gandhi Park. The girl then said, "It's already late. I have to get back home to cook," and left. But as she walked away, Pandi shouted after her, "Shanti, whatever problem you have, make sure you tell me." Afzal, the boy who was with Pandi at the time, warned him, "Brother, that girl you just spoke to works in the house of a man who is a police officer. Be careful, you might get into trouble." Murugan jumped in and said, "See, that night if you hadn't yelled after her like that, we wouldn't be in this mess. And now, because of you, all three of us are stuck here." The whole night passed like that. The next morning, the policeman dragged them out again, beating them with sticks, and forced them to line up shirtless in front of the restroom. Just then, Murugan saw Afzal coming out of the bathroom, his body covered with bruises. He had been beaten badly too. Seeing them, Afzal broke into tears. The three asked him, "Brother, how did you end up here?" Afzal explained, "I didn't do anything wrong. Last night I had just finished watching a movie and was leaving the cinema hall when a policeman stopped me and asked where I had been. I told him I went to see a film and that I was from Tamil Nadu, working here in Andhra Pradesh doing small jobs. The moment they heard Tamil Nadu, they arrested me." Hearing this, Murugan turned to Pandi and said, "See brother, it's not about that girl. We're in trouble because we're Tamilians. That's why they picked us up." When they were taken back inside the station, the inspector ordered 4 of them to stand aside while sending the others inside. He looked at them and asked, "Have you confessed yet?" Pandi replied, "Confess to what? We don't even know what crime you're talking about." The inspector got furious. They tied the men upside down, their legs raised in the air, and began beating the soles of their feet with sticks. The torture was so inhuman that even some of the other policemen were shocked to watch it. When the inspector got tired, the other policemen took over, thrashing them relentlessly. After hours of pain, the inspector returned and asked again, "So, do you confess?" Murugan, enraged, shouted, "You've been beating us for hours. First tell us what crime we're supposed to confess to." Hearing this, the inspector lost his temper. He kicked Murugan so hard that 2 of his front teeth broke. Imagine how cruel a man has to be to do something like that. Later, when they were taken outside to wash their faces in the restroom, a female police officer walked in to freshen up. She accidentally left her phone behind. Pandi quickly called after her, "Madam, you forgot your phone." The woman looked at him and whispered, "For the last 2 days I've been watching what they're doing to you. Use this phone to call someone outside for help." Then she left. Pandi grabbed the phone quickly. He hid in a bathroom stall, sat on the toilet seat, and made a call to his shop owner, explaining everything that had happened to them in detail. The next morning, Pandi's shop owner came outside the police station and called out for him. Pandi told him, "Sir, please believe me. We didn't do anything. Somehow get us out of here." But the shop owner replied, "The police say you guys stole 10 million rupees. Pandi pleaded, "We don't know anything about this. We've never stolen anything. I opened the shop at 5 a.m. as usual." The shop owner shook his head and said, "Listen, if you don't confess, they won't let you live." While they were talking, a policeman came by. The shop owner explained to him, "Officer, they arrested my shop boy, saying he was involved in a robbery at Vrindavan Colony. But these are good boys. They couldn't have done such a thing." The officer replied, "All right, I'll talk to the inspector and see what I can do." Later, he brought them some food inside the station. While serving it, he said, "You've been beaten so much already. If only you had confessed, it wouldn't have gone this far. It's just a small robbery case. If you admit it, they'll stop beating you." But Pandi answered, "Sir, we haven't committed any crime. If we confess to something we didn't do, how will we ever go back home and face our families after prison?" The officer got angry and began beating them again. Then Pandi told the others, "Look, the police are keeping us here without reason. They want us to confess to this robbery, but they're also giving us food. That means they won't kill us outright. Instead of being beaten and forced, we should just refuse to eat. Let's die on our own terms rather than by their hands." So they cleverly stopped eating altogether. Days passed. DASP, Assistant Superintendent of Police, summoned the inspector to his office. He said, "I told you, this robbery case has to be solved within a couple of days. I'm getting constant pressure from above. Do whatever you have to. Find someone, anyone, and close the case." The inspector replied, "Give me just 1 or 2 more days, sir. I'll handle it." That night, police were checking vehicles on the road. One man stopped and introduced himself as Covid, saying he lived in Vrindavan Colony. He claimed he had been following someone suspicious named Kabir. Meanwhile, back at the station, late at night, Policemen covered Pandey's head with a black cloth and dragged him outside. They tortured him by pouring water over his face, saying, "You think starving yourself will make us let you go? Until you confess, we'll never release you." The next morning, the inspector gathered the other officers and said, "We've beaten these boys for days. Still, they haven't confessed. Instead, they've stopped eating. If they die here and this news leaks out, we'll all be in serious trouble. Better to release them and frame someone else." So one officer brought the 4 boys out. The inspector told them, "You refused food for 3 days. You also won't confess to the robbery. So I've decided to let you go. On your way out, collect some money from Brothers Hotel and sign a paper here before leaving. And remember, don't ever tell anyone that we beat you." Relieved, the boys happily stepped outside. As they left, a policeman reminded them, "Don't forget to collect 2,000 rupees each from Brothers Hotel." They limped out of the station. Before leaving, they turned back and saw the inspector standing on the roof of the building, watching them. Murugan said, "He's not as bad as we thought," and they expressed gratitude as they walked away. After days of endless torture, the 4 of them were finally free. Laughing and smiling, they headed to the hotel. Pandey was ready to take the money and leave immediately, but Murugan stopped him. "We haven't eaten in 3 days. Let's at least eat something before we go." So they used the money to fill their stomachs. Then they returned to the station to sign the release papers. A police officer asked them, "So did you all eat well?" Murugan replied, "Yes sir, we ate to our heart's content, but I couldn't chew the meat properly since I've lost my 2 front teeth." Just as they were about to leave, the policemen stopped them again. The inspector looked at them and said, "For 3 days you refused to eat." The inspector looks at them and says, "You really think you'll get away this easily? You know, I'm actually starting to feel a little pity for you. That's why I thought I'd feed you first before we continue." At the same time, a few other policemen nearby were cutting palm leaves and shaping them into sticks. After a while, the inspector calls Pandey forward and says, "Now I'm going to beat you with this palm stick. But listen carefully, if you scream or fall down on the ground, then I'll make sure your friends here get beaten even harder." Pandey quietly stands still. The inspector raises the palm stick and strikes him with full force. Pandey bends over in pain, but the very moment he does, the rest of his friends are also beaten mercilessly by the other officers. The beating goes on until the inspector himself becomes tired, and the palm stick even breaks in his hand. Still, none of them confess to the robbery. The next day, their shop owner comes to see them and says, "Look at what they've done to you. If you just confessed to the robbery, they wouldn't have kept beating you like this." He turns to Pandey and adds, "The rest of your friends are willing to admit it, but you're the only one refusing." Pandey replies, "Believe me, I never stole anything." Then their lawyer steps in and says, "Listen, when the police are under pressure from above to solve a case quickly, they grab ordinary people like you from anywhere and make you the scapegoats. Besides, all the stolen items have already been recovered. All you need to do is go to court and say you committed the robbery. And anyway, the media already knows the police have caught the suspects. No matter what happens, the police are going to frame you in this case. But look at it this way, instead of getting beaten here endlessly, wouldn't it be better to spend just 3 months in jail and be done with it?" Pandey asks, "So are you saying that after 3 months, they'll really let us go free?" The lawyer nods and says, "Yes, if you confess to this robbery, you'll be released after 3 months. Hearing this, Pandey finally agrees to confess. The next morning, all 4 of them are taken to the house where the robbery had actually happened. Following the police's scripted instructions, each of them begins describing how they supposedly committed the crime, climbing over the wall, entering through the window, and carrying out the robbery. The police record all of these statements on video. The following day, the 4 men are transported to court in an auto rickshaw. There, they also notice the man who used to come to Pandey's shop. But shortly after, Kabir also arrives at the court for his own hearing. That same man attempts to arrest Kabir, but since this area is not under his jurisdiction, he can't do it. Turns out he himself is actually a police officer, and his name is Muthupel. When Pandey and the others are brought inside, the judge asks them, "Did you really commit this robbery?" The men break down in tears, remove their shirts and show their wounds, saying, "The police forced us to confess through beatings. We never committed any robbery." But the judge cannot understand their words, because they are speaking in Tamil. So the judge asks, "Is there anyone here who can translate what they're saying?" Someone from the court calls Muthupel forward. Muthupel explains everything to the judge. After hearing the truth, the judge warns the inspector for filing a false case and acquits Pandey and his friends from all charges. As they walk out of the court, Pandey's shop owner gives him some money and says, "Take this money and leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise you might get into trouble again." He then asks Pandey, "By the way, did any girl come to your shop in these past few days?" The shop owner replies, Yes, a girl came looking for you. She even left her phone number here. Pandey takes the number, but just then Muthupal calls him aside and says, "Can you do me a small favor?" Pandey and the others respond, "Sir, you've done us such a huge favor already. Tell us what we can do for you." A little later, when Govind, the local man, exits the court after attending his own hearing, Pandey and his friends, along with Muthupal, ambush him and kidnap him. Actually, this was exactly the help that Muthupal had wanted from them. After they kidnapped Kabir, they travelled toward Tamil Nadu. On the way, they stopped at Kumar's house. Kumar got down there, and the others said goodbye to him before heading straight to the Tamil Nadu police station with Muthupal. When they arrived, Muthupal looked at Pandey and his friends and said, "Listen, never again try to save money by sleeping in a park. Go home, get some rest this time." Just then one of the policemen told Muthupal, "Sir, our police station is very dirty and the ASP is visiting in 2 days. Wouldn't it be a good idea to make these guys clean it up before he comes?" Muthupal agreed and ordered Pandey and his friends to clean the entire station before leaving. They had no choice, so they quietly began sweeping, washing and scrubbing the place. Meanwhile, Muthupal took Kabir into a separate room to interrogate him. He wanted to know exactly what Kabir's work was. At first, Kabir refused to admit anything. But in reality, Kabir kept the accounts of black money for political party leaders. Muthupal had been ordered by his senior officer to uncover this information because the opposition politicians could use it to gain power in the upcoming elections. Muthupal spent the whole night trying to get Kabir to talk, but not a single word came out of his mouth. By morning, Pandey and his friends were still outside, cleaning the police station, even washing the patrol vehicles. A little later, Muthupal entered the interrogation room again and demanded that Kabir hand over the details of the black money accounts. Kabir stayed silent. So Muthupal ordered another officer to beat him brutally. While this was happening, Pandey and his friends, who were busy scrubbing floors inside the station, witnessed the beating. Fear spread across their faces. Pandey turned to Murugan and whispered, "Look, just a couple of days ago we went through the same kind of torture. I think we should help that man." But Murugan replied nervously, "Brother, we don't need any more trouble. If we just finish our work and go back home alive, that's enough for us." Still, Pandey felt pity for Kabir. Secretly, he slipped the small phone they had hidden into Kabir's hand so he could make a call. Kabir quickly dialed a man he trusted and begged him, "Please, contact the district commissioner and get me out of here as soon as possible." But the man on the phone replied, "There's a huge problem. Our political leader has actually paid the district commissioner 3 million rupees to have you killed." Hearing this, Kabir made a firm decision in his heart. He would reveal every detail about the politician's black money to Muthupal. But before he could act, another police officer entered, dragged Kabir into a separate room, and began beating him savagely. The officers kept telling Kabir, "You must never reveal anything about the political leader's black money to Muthupal." Poor Kabir was completely trapped. He was beaten so badly that he could barely hold on. His screams echoed through the station, and Pandey and his friends, hearing them, became terrified. They wanted to leave immediately, but just then another policeman stopped them and said, "You haven't finished cleaning properly yet. Make sure everything is spotless before you go." Once again, they were trapped in the middle of all this. Late that night, Muthupal came back to the station and was shocked to see Kabir badly injured and hanging from a rope. He rushed forward, quickly cut him down and shouted, "I arrested him and brought him here myself. He is my responsibility. Who dared to torture him without my permission?" He tried to take Kabir to the hospital immediately. But just then, the district commissioner called and ordered Muthupal not to take Kabir to the hospital. Muthupal replied, "I don't care if I lose my job, I will still take him there." Before he could act, another officer came and said, "Sir, Kabir is dead." Now Muthupal was completely trapped. Kabir had died in his custody, the man he had personally arrested. The district commissioner then said, "If this news leaks outside, we'll all be in deep trouble. The only way out is to stage it as a suicide. That way, no one will suspect us." So they took Kabir's body to his house, tied a rope around his neck, and hung him from the ceiling, making it look like he had killed himself. Back at the station, the officers began plotting how to frame the suicide story properly. Not long after, the district commissioner went to the washroom to freshen up. There, he saw water everywhere, the result of Pandey and his friends cleaning earlier. Suddenly, one officer panicked and said, "They've overheard everything we've been saying. If they go outside and tell anyone what they know, we're finished. The only way to be safe is to frame them in the ATM robbery case, send them to jail, and later do an encounter. That way, this truth will never come out." But Muthupal refused. "No, I won't go along with this," he said. The officer argued back. "Think about it. Kabir died in your custody. If anyone is going to get blamed, it's you. You'll be the one to lose everything. Cornered, Muthupal reluctantly agreed to the plan to encounter Pandey and his friends. Later, when Pandey and the others came down, ready to leave the police station, another officer blocked the gate. He told them, "Not yet. First you need to clean our senior officer's bungalow. After that you can go." Right then Pandey and Murugan realized the truth. They had been set up again. Even after surviving so much, their fate had dragged them right back into another trap. 3 of them were taken in a police vehicle toward the officer's bungalow. Along the way, they overheard the policemen talking and finally understood they were being taken for an encounter. Afzal turned to Muthupal and asked, "Sir, everyone is saying we're going to be killed. But we have faith in you. We know you won't let anything happen to us." Muthupal sat in silence, unable to answer. A short while later, they arrived at a house. As soon as they entered one of the rooms, they were shocked to see all their personal belongings already placed neatly inside, as if they had been living there the whole time. Afzal said, "I'll go ask the officer why our clothes have been brought here." He stepped outside, but the moment he did, a policeman shot him dead. Hearing the gunshot, Murugan and Pandey rushed outside and saw Afzal lying on the ground. When the officers tried to shoot the others, their gun jammed. Muthupal stormed forward and shouted, "Who told you to shoot?" The policeman replied, "Sir, he was trying to escape." Murugan and Pandey held Afzal in their arms crying, "Sir, he's still alive. Please take him to the hospital right now." But Muthupal just stood there in silence, because deep inside he knew that he too was trapped. A little later, one of the policemen came and handcuffed Pandey. Afzal, with his last breath, cried out to his brothers, telling them to run away, otherwise the police would kill them too. Hearing that, Pandey and Murugan managed to escape from the house and hid inside the tall grass in the nearby field. Soon the police began searching for them desperately. One officer even went up to the rooftop, flashing his torchlight everywhere to find them. While hiding, Pandey told Murugan that they should split up and run in different directions. That way, at least one of them might survive, and whoever lived would be able to reveal the truth to the people of the nation. The truth of how the police had tortured them and turned their lives into hell. But Murugan refused, saying that if they lived, they would live together, and if they died, they would die together. Somehow Pandey convinced him, and quietly slipped away to another patch of grass. But a policeman followed him there, and when he finally caught him, a violent struggle broke out. Somehow Pandey managed to snatch the gun from the officer and hid again. Thinking the road was clear, Pandey came out and tried to run, but just then, another policeman shot him down. At the same moment, the district commissioner made a phone call, asking if everyone had been killed. The policeman on the line replied that 2 of them had been encountered. Meanwhile, Muthupal tried to convince Pandey to surrender. He told him to come out, hand over the gun, and promised that no harm would come to him. But Pandey, broken and furious, said that once he had trusted Muthupal, but now he realized it was all a lie. He cried out that Muthupal had killed his 2 friends right in front of him, and there was no trust left anymore. With tears in his eyes, Pandey pointed the gun at Muthupal. But Muthupal did not resist. Instead, he said, "Shoot me, kill me, and then run away. At least you will survive." But Pandey replied, "Even if I kill you, how could I live with such a life? I don't want to live like this anymore." With that, he slowly walked toward Muthupal, with his gun raised. Sensing the danger, Muthupal too pointed his gun at Pandey. But just then, another police officer aimed his gun at Muthupal. It turned out that the higher officers had already ordered not only the killing of the boys, but also the killing of Muthupal himself. And then suddenly, the sound of gunfire echoed through the place. Both Pandey and Muthupal fell to the ground, lifeless. That night, everyone was silenced forever. But then comes the most shocking twist. If everyone was killed, how did the world ever know about this horrifying truth? The answer lies in Kumar. On their way to the police safe house, Kumar had secretly managed to escape from the vehicle. He later wrote down everything he had seen and published it as a book. And this very movie is based on that book, a story that shook the system and revealed how the police can twist lies into truth, frame innocence, and turn a tiny spark into a raging fire of conspiracy. A story so terrifying, so real, that once you watch it, you will never look at the system the same way again.